You have 5 starters that are set to be free agents, a salary cap that's probably going to drop to 175 million. You and Russ and your staff do such a great job preparing and being responsible with the cap, but how hard is it going to be to manage that next year with what you're facing?
Yeah, there's going to be some unique challenges, but every team in the league is going through the same thing. So it's pretty equal footing that way. At the end of the day, I think it comes down to choices. Russ does a great job, kind of laying it out for me and the decisions that I got to make. So yeah, there'll be some tough choices moving forward, but I think we're prepared, and we'll make those right decisions when they come.
Can you just give us a little glimpse into what those conversations have been like on a daily basis, making sure players are comfortable playing the season and everything you guys are doing in the building? And have any other guys informed you that they intend to opt out this season?
Yeah, I'll answer that second one first. We have not had anybody besides Devin inform us that they're planning to opt out. I think we're really fortunate here in Green Bay. We have just an excellent support staff. Our ICO, the guy that's kind of heading up this whole project of dealing with some of the protocols that the league has asked to do is Doug Collins. He's done an amazing job, along with Flea and all the rest of our staff. Adam in our nutrition and our cafeteria, and Giz in the strength room. I mean, I think we've done a really good job of not only preparing the facility, but walking guys through it so that they do feel safe. Again, we've had players in the building for the last 3 days now. And it's just really proud of the organization as a whole, kind of coming together. I think, a lot of us are going to have to do things maybe that we haven't had to do because we just have a restricted number of people who can be, have contact with our players. So everyone's just kind of the team effort behind what's been going on the last, 2-3 weeks to get ready for this has been impressive.
Quickly, to follow up on Ryan's question before I ask mine, I'm wondering if, with Devin's decision, if you are more actively looking for wide receiver help than you normally would at this point in training camp. And then my actual question was, what kind of conversations have you had lately with Tramon Williams, and is he still someone that you are considering bringing back?
Yeah, so the first part of your question, I mean, I wouldn't say we're any more active than we ever have been looking for help at any position. So, we're obviously – it's a little bit different year because there's not going to be preseason games and to evaluate. So I think we're going to have to heavily rely on a lot of other ways to evaluate players on other teams and the players that are available through the waiver wire and other means. But yeah, I think it's nice to have everybody back in the building and working towards kind of the same thing. It's been a long time since we've had that. So, but as far as the way we go about the process of it, that hasn't really changed. As far as Tramon goes, I have great respect for Tramon, what he's done here. We certainly are very, very aware of, where he is, and, no updates at this time, but I have a lot of respect for Tramon and what he brings to the table.
Brian, I saw a report where a TV crew went through the Rams facility in Thousand Oaks, and I was impressed by the equipment they were using, this vertical thermometer when the players and crew checks in, this sensor they wear about the size of the domino. And the thought that I had was, not only would it be important for the NFL to get through the season to entertain folks, but you've got an opportunity to come up with some procedures that how any kind of business or school athletics could function in this pandemic. Have you guys talked about that?
Yeah, no doubt. I think when you go through something like this and you're forced to do a lot of things maybe out of your comfort zone and new technology and all different kinds of things, there's things that are going to last way beyond this pandemic that we'll probably adopt into our process. But again, I echoed what I said before, just you look at how we're working through things when our players first come into the building. I know for me personally, I just feel really good and safe about how we're going about those things, and gives me a lot of confidence. And I hope that our players see that as they come in, not only from how they enter the building, but to how the changes we've made in the building and the different decisions Matt's made about how we're meeting, and certainly our cafeteria and how we feed our players has changed. So and there's no doubt that some of those things will probably stay with us long after hopefully we get beyond this pandemic.
Hey, Brian, to follow up quickly, just with the preseason, obviously the cancellation of that, what kind of challenge does that present for you and your staff now with not having that? I know you've said in the past it's more of a confirmation to what you've seen on the practice field, but how different is that going to be not having that, that metric?
Wes, I think I missed the first part of your question. I think you're talking about preseason games.
With the preseason. Sorry about that. Yeah, just as far as what kind of, level of difficulty that adds to the equation, not having that to go off of.
Yeah, I think it's going to be different. Every team's going to have to, is going to have to do it the same way, or at least, without the preseason game. So it's I've always felt that guys having to go out there under the lights and make decisions for themselves is a very important part of the evaluation process. But I do feel really, really confident in how Matt and his staff, as we go through the next 42 days before we get to that first game, the things that they'll implement in practice that might, give us some opportunity at least to replicate that as much as we can. I think we're going to have enough opportunity to evaluate these guys fairly. There's going to be a lot of opportunity for them. But again, I think, being in games and being able to make those decisions under the kind of pressure that a real game brings with, 85,000 in Lambeau, that's hard to replicate.
I was just wondering how closely you're following what Major League Baseball is going through right now with its protocols, and just whether that gives you any more or less confidence about being able to make it through a season to completion without being in a bubble environment like you have with the NBA.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think, again, working over the last, I guess now, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, however long we've been working through with the NFL and the league office, the protocols that we have to do to return to play. I got a lot of confidence in the plan and how we go about it. There are a lot of unknowns, and then we're going to have to adjust every day. As the CDC and new science and we're going to have to adjust every day. We're going to have to be flexible enough to adjust every day. So I'm really confident in our plan and how we go about it, but there are some things that are out of our control. There's no doubt about it.
Hey, Brian, hope you're doing well. Last year, Jared Veldheer came in and really saved your bacon a couple times. What is your confidence that you have that kind of guy on the roster, as far as, whether it's Yash or moving Billy, or do you have a guy, or is that maybe a spot where you're maybe on the lookout?
Hey, Bill, I think I missed the very first part of your question. I seem to be missing a little bit of everyone's first question, so I didn't hear that.
Yeah, it was just about, you had Jared Veldheer on the roster last year, and he really saved your bacon a couple times, and then everything I said after that.
I got you. No, I got a lot of confidence in those guys. Obviously Alex has played for us. He's gone into games and had to get us out of some spots before. I like the flexibility of our group. I think a lot of guys have the ability to play guard, tackle. Certainly Billy Turner gives us a lot of confidence that he could go out there and play tackle if need be. So I'm pretty confident in those guys. I'm looking forward to seeing Yash in his second year with our group, and kind of seeing where he can go and grow. But yeah, I'm confident in that group.
Hey, Brian, 2 parts real quick. Do you plan on going with 80 or 90 when you come to camp? And the challenge of getting a rookie quarterback, obviously you hope Jordan, doesn't have to play for you right away, but how much with no preseason and all the stuff he's missed, can you really hope that he can grasp going into the season?
Yeah, so we're the 90-man split squad right now. I think, technically our roster is, right around 83 with some of the COVID guys that won't count. But we're going to do the split squad thing. How long we're going to do that for, we'll kind of determine as we go forward. And as far as the quarterback's development, Jordan, and it's unfortunate they're not going to have the game reps. Again, I'm excited to kind of see some of the things Matt and his staff will do to create some of those, but it won't be the same. But I also believe, that, there's going to be there's always with quarterbacks, it takes time, before they're able to make the right decisions under pressure within a certain system. It just takes a lot of time. And so, we're fortunate to have, one of the best that's ever played the game, and then another guy that is going to be able to have the time to kind of learn some things.
Olivia Reiner, go ahead.
Hi, Brian. Thanks for taking the time to speak with us today. You said back after the draft that scouting is a 365-day process. Preparing for the draft is a 365-day process. How is the pandemic going to impact the travel and the draft draft prep that your scouts are going to be able to do this year?
Yeah, we're working through that right now, and there's a lot of unknowns right now. So I think it's gonna actually change as we go. The one thing I do know is that we're gonna, there's gonna be a draft, and we're gonna have to scout, and we just may have to do it in some different ways. I think the first and foremost thing is that we keep our guys safe, and so as colleges make their decision about when they're going to play, when they're going to practice, will they let us in? As they make their decisions, and we're going to make some decisions, kind of following suit. We kind of have a bunch of contingency plans. We feel really good about being able to pivot whatever way we got to pivot to do the job that we need to do. But there's a lot of unknowns right now.
Brian, good to see you're okay. Obviously, this is going to be a different training camp. You've talked about it a little bit at this point, but altering your approach, how does that compare to like a normal off season? And what are some of the things that maybe you can specifically talk about that you guys are going to have to do that's going to be totally different than in the past?
Yeah, I don't want to go into too many specifics, Lance, but I will say this, like, the way we meet, we had to kind of take some of the bigger spaces here in Lambeau and, use those for meeting rooms, which we haven't had to use in the past. Obviously everyone around here, at pretty much any time in the building, are wearing masks, as they walk up and down the halls. We've altered our, a lot of the spaces that our players usually enter, as far as the locker room and the players lounge, the cafeteria. So we're fortunate that we have such great facilities here that we were able to adjust within the current spaces that we have. But meeting with 120 people in where we normally would meet, that's not where we can do that anymore. So we've had to kind of change some things up. So like I said, there's been some unique challenges, but again, I can't tell you how proud I am of the organization and the people in it. There just hasn't been, everybody's kind of had a let's get it done attitude, and it's been that's the way it always is around here, and we're just really fortunate.
Yeah, Brian, kind of going off of that, I'm curious, on a scale of 1 to 10, how different of a feel is it going through just the daily routine for you and the players with all that has to change?
Yeah, it would be hard for me to put a number on it, 1 to 10. And I think, right now, because we really haven't had any padded practices, we didn't have any kind of your normal OTAs and those things, it has felt very different. I will say, and this is always the case, but having the players back in the building brings a different kind of juice to the building that is always exciting. I think as we get, a couple weeks out and we get into daily practices, that's where I think it'll start to feel more normal. Certainly walking out to practice without the guys riding the bikes and the fans being the Saints, they're going to be disappointing. But once we get to football and we're watching practice and evaluating practice and getting ready for games, I think everyone will start to feel a little bit more normal. But right now it is a little different.
Hey Brian, I got a two-parter for you. You guys
Okay.
picked up John Lovett off of waivers.
Yep.
First, what did you see from him that made him intriguing enough to go claim him? And secondly, he really looks like the kind of player that maybe you guys wouldn't have been interested in under the old offensive system. Has it been a bit of not a stretch or a change, but has it been different, like having to scout different types of players for this offense?
I'll answer the second part of that first, if that's okay. I think, I think we just maybe value certain players a little differently, maybe, but not a lot. I mean, it's not a lot. I just think we have, with what Matt wants to do on offense a little bit, we might value guys a little differently, but not. We've always scouted those kind of players and had room for them. But in John's case, we really liked him coming out of the 19 draft. We tried to sign him after the draft, and Kansas City signed him. And he was injured his shoulder on a special teams play early in the preseason and kind of spent the year out. But he was a kind of a do-it-all player at Princeton. Played quarterback there. He's got really good size, and I think his transition into that kind of the H-back fullback role is something that back in 19 we were excited about. And so we're again, once we get him through all the protocols here and get him in the building, it'll be good to see him out on the field and see what he can do.
Brian, can you hear me?
I got you now.
Okay, thank you. With no on-field work in the off season and obviously no preseason games, what are the the extra challenges the young guys have to sort of prove that they're ready to play in the NFL. And if you got a draft pick, say like a Dylan or DeGuara, that maybe you're going to want them to play right away, how are you going to know that they're ready?
Yeah, again, I think I got to touch that on a little bit earlier, Mike. I think I think there'll be different opportunities through practice and things that our coaching staff may do to kind of allow us to kind of put those guys in situations where they got to make decisions and they got to play at a different kind of tempo. At the same time, we do that every year. I think when you have 4 preseason games, 4 markers as we go through the preseason, you have to kind of tailor your practices to get those guys ready for those games, and those are the biggest opportunities. So as we go through this schedule, again, we'll just have to create the markers on our own, and just understand that those things, and the players will understand that those particular practices, they may be a little bit more physical, there may be a little bit more team or one-on-one type situations, but we'll have to create those. They're not automatically there for us.
You generally like to have as many players as possible for as long as possible. And you mentioned John going through all the protocols. So you've got 2 weeks from today to make a cut. You have all these other things. Do you anticipate being as active on the waiver wire as you'd like, or is it really, do you have to be so selective, maybe even more so, just because of, I mean, it may take you 5-6 days to even get a guy in, and then you may have to make a cut a couple of days after that.
Yeah, again, it'll be a little different, and we're going to have to. I think you're going to have to really think about when you add a player to your roster. Certainly the day that he's actually going to be able to get there, and how much time you're going to have to evaluate him before you have to make decisions. So our process from evaluating the guys and what we think of the players won't change, but the decision points of, hey, does it make sense to do this now or to wait may change. But at the same time, again, all 32 teams are dealing with the same rules, same situation. So it's just something we'll get used to, and we'll get used to. We kind of already have, and it'll just become the normal.
Hi, Brian.
Hello.
Jay Sternberger, the way he finished up last year, what's he capable of this year, and what do you need for him to be capable of?
Yeah, I mean, Jace, is going to. We're dependent on Jace to be a big part of what we're going to do this season. So, from the time we drafted him, we looked at Jace as a matchup problem. He's a very gifted athlete. He's a young player. Coming out, he had 1 year at Texas A&M, and so there was a lot of growth there. But we really like the positive signs we saw through the season last year. And it was unfortunate we didn't have an off season to kind of springboard him into this season. But we're excited to get him back in the fold and see what he can do and see where he's at. Like a lot of our players, pretty much all of them. I mean, we haven't seen them on the field, really, since last season. So there'll be an evaluation period here coming over the next 10 days or so to kind of see where everybody's at, and then before we get into these padded practices. But Jace is a guy we're counting on. We certainly think a lot of him, and we're excited to see what he'll do.
Hey, Brian, can you hear me okay?
I got you.
Hey, good. It's good to see you.
Yeah, you as well.
You have a tough enough decision to make with the roster in terms of talent, but how much is the factor of character going to come in, given that, the players are going to have to go and leave your environment and be in places where there is COVID-19? How big of that is that a part of it? And then are you and Matt going to have any kind of a zero tolerance, on if you catch guys going out or doing things like that, or what's your approach there?
Yeah, that's the first part of that question. It will depend a lot on that. I mean, I think, we around here, we've always, put the reliability, dependability factor as a major part of our evaluation process. And, this year more so than any, these guys are going to have to, for us to accomplish the things we want to accomplish in this season, guys are going to have to make right choices when they leave the building. There's no doubt about it. I've always believed football is the ultimate team game, and this year's more so than ever, right? It's just going to be dependent on how each one of us, not just the players, but everybody in our building, make good choices and be responsible when they leave the building. At the same time, we're going to have positive tests. You know, I mean, this virus that we're dealing with, I mean, it's we're going to have that, and it's not going to necessarily always, just because someone gets it, be their fault, you know? So the dependability and the availability of players, the teams that do that and overcome that and rise to that challenge the best are going to be the ones that are going to be left standing, you know, fighting at the end. So it's a big part of what we're trying to express to our entire organization. As far as the second part, you know, I think, you know, Matt is going to kind of lay this out for all the players, and it's probably a question you could ask him too. But as far as what he expects from them, and as far as the, you know, the tolerance for it, I think it's going to be really hard for these guys to look at their teammates, you know, if they're not making the right choices. And I'm very hopeful that there's a kind of that the leaders on our team and the kind of the peer pressure of those guys in that locker room is something that you know, makes especially the younger players understand what's at stake and what we're playing for.
Brian, can you hear me now?
I got you.
Okay. Hey, thanks for doing this. I appreciate it. And if you did answer this first part, I apologize. You know, technical issues here. You mentioned you're going to go with 90 and a split squad. Have you figured out, if you get to your practice portion still with 90, how you're going to split that up, offense, defense? If you could elaborate on that. And then the second part is, are there contingencies, in place? You mentioned you're going to have positive tests. Once you guys start practicing, who knows what's going to happen? Are there contingencies in place from the league in case this season can't start on time?
Gotcha. Actually, the first part, as far as the split squad goes, you know, really, before we actually get to any padded practice, we'll have to cut to 80. That's kind of the rules that the league has in place for us. Is while we're split, the league has defined that we can't really make up the two groups how we would want to. It's really the rookies and a certain portion of players that were injured last year, and then the veterans, and that's how we'd have to keep them split. Again, that's where we are right now. How long we carry a split squad is something that we evaluate pretty much daily, and what's best for, you know, for the club and training them. So as far as part of your second question, the league's got, you know, all kinds of contingency plans, and we have not really gone. I have not gone down that road. I'm sure Mark has had some of those discussions in the committees that he's involved with, but I have not had a lot of those conversations as far as delaying the season or anything like that. We're preparing every day like we're going to play, and we're excited to do so. I think that's the nice thing about the last few days. We're getting the players back, and the coaches being in the building, and our scouts being back. Is just you know, everybody's excited to be around football again. So that's what we're focused on right now.